Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Post in Black, where we celebrate Black excellence behind the lens. My name is David Hunter Jr., and I am your host today. And today we are excited to have Life Garland and Jeredon O'Conner. Fellas, thank you so much for joining us today on Post in Black.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Oh no, this is special. This is awesome. We have two guests at the same time, and this is something new that we're doing today. And just to start out, we want to keep with the trend of Post in Black. We want to start out with an icebreaker before we jump into everything. So I'm going to ask you both: if you could take only 3 items to a deserted island, what would you take with you? And I'll start with you, Jeredon.
Ooh, all right, tough. So 3 items. One, I hope they have Wi-Fi. My phone. I guess I'll take my phone. That would be a good, useful thing to have. The multi-tool joint. Man, another one. Let me see. I'm a big reader. I love reading, so I would take a book for sure. What book that is, I'm not exactly sure yet.
Okay.
So some kind of book. And then the third thing I would take, maybe like a barbecue grill or something. You know, I'm from the South, from Memphis, so
Hey,
I gotta catch the fish and eat the fish from the deserted island. So
for sure, I heard Memphis got the best barbecue. So
man, the best.
Okay. Well, life. What about you? What would you take?
My Swiss Army knife, first and foremost.
Okay.
It's all about survival first, not entertainment.
Yeah, I'm all entertainment.
and then after that, it would certainly be something. I'd probably say music. I don't know. Yeah. It could be anything. But my favorite is Prince. So I would have to say I would have to have Prince on the island, or else I don't know what I'd do. I don't know what I'd do.
I would. That's awesome.
Yeah, and then the third would be, something positive to read.
Mm-hmm.
Just gotcha. Anything.
I love it. Yeah, no, I love it. Both of you gave some very, very solid, wisdom in your choices for what you would take with you, because and some people, they were like, oh, I'm gonna just take this, I'm gonna take that. No, that I saw some thought there, so I think that's pretty fire. And as you said, I have some books behind me. I love to read too, so I take a couple of books with me. Fellas, this is amazing, and we're just excited to have you both. Obviously, you have a new show that we're going to talk about out, and we'll just talk about that, what say what, Hoorae, all of those things. One of the reasons why we wanted to have both of you on, because we have the editor, Life Garland, and we have producer working behind the scenes. And a lot of times when we're talking about Post in Black, we have people working on the shows, but they have to get actually hired to work on the show. And there's thought process that goes into why you pick a specific editor or post-production professional. So I want you first, both, before we dive into the show, to talk about what it is you do. Jeredon, you can talk about yourself and your background, and then we'll go to Life and talk about your history as well. So Jeredon, tell the people where you're from and what it is you do.
Yeah, for sure. So as I said earlier, I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, born and raised Memphis. I brand myself as a multi-hyphenate filmmaker, which is crazy because Life, I don't want to jump on your answer, but Life and I connected over there too, where we kind of do more than just edit, or more than just, direct. We kind of do a little bit of everything, a bit of everything, really. So that's where my background is, just to be a multi-hyphenate creator, originally from Memphis. Went to school in DC, went to Howard University. So shout out to the Mecca. The real HU, if you will. I know you went to Hampton. I did a little research, so I had to throw that in.
I may have worn, for those of you that are watching, listening, I may have worn a Hampton shirt from my Howard brother right here.
I feel you. I started too, and I was like, nah, I ain't gonna do it. That's his show, you know what I'm saying?
That's all love.
But yeah, so I'm a multi-hyphenate filmmaker from Memphis. Went to school at Howard, great education, especially in the film department that Howard has. And when I was at school, I actually emphasized in cinematography and directing. And it wasn't until after I graduated school that I really honed in on a lot of the posts, which I, worked in advertising over Portland and moved to LA to freelance now and do a lot of TV and commercial work, both again in the post world and the directing world, in the cinematography world. So a little bit of everything. So
awesome. Yeah, and life also, we hear about you as well.
Yeah, it's I didn't go to school. I went to the School of Hard Knocks. I went straight to propaganda films, at a time when, you know, Antoine Fuqua was there, Michael Bay, Spike Jonze, you know, some really big directors. I got to learn under them. I always knew that I wanted to be in the industry. You know, it just all fascinated me. So you know, I thought to myself, well, let me learn it all. Let me, you know, figure it out. So, you know, I started in production and worked that out for about 2 or 3 years. And I just, you know, just found every facet of it, you know, fascinating. Somehow I had some interview or something at a post house, and me and this editor just really clicked. And he's like, "Hey, would you be interested in assisting me, or, you know, assistant work?" And I, being super young, just said yes. You know. And so I dove into it. The more I did it, I was like, "This is fascinating." Like, you know, you can actually change how people feel, you know, by a click of a button. It's like, it's amazing. So anyway, you know, I really fell in love with it, and I've stuck with it ever since.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, and that kind of touches on a little bit of what we're going to go into next. What got you started? And you talked about going to the School of Hard Knocks. Believe it or not, that is a common thread among some of the guests of why they chose the path that they chose. It was to get out of a certain city or an environment, or to try something new, and it just sparked a thought or a conversation with somebody. What was that journey like once you talked to that editor and saw you could have that type of impact on the industry? Because obviously you've had an accomplished career thus far, but what was it like initially once you got started? What you know, when finding your niche and kind of getting everything going?
A lot of, I mean, I bumped my head a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was just so excited about it, but you know, I didn't know what I didn't know, right? So, you know, it would be repeating questions, asking this, asking that. But, you know, I knew I wanted to stick to it. So I started, you know, really doing the work. I would, you know, be the first one in, the last one out, and, you know, digitize the footage in myself, and, you know, edit. And like, I mean, I did that religiously for like 6 months straight, you know? And it's just, I find that you have to really want it, you know? You have to really, like, you know, there's a connection beyond just the work. What I'm trying to say. And so, you know, I was lucky to find that at an early age. Like, I started editing at like 19, 20. So yeah, I just found it all fascinating, and I just stuck to it, you know? And you know, at the time for me, you know, it started off like production and everything started off as this, like, you know, it was like a means to an end. Like, okay, you know, I'm on my own. I have to pay my bills, this and that. But then I started like finding that respect for it, you know? And once I started finding that respect for it is when I wanted to learn more and more and more. And then I realized you can never stop learning in production. And that's even more exciting, you know?
Right. No, that's really great. Really great. And Jeredon, you know, you talk about going to Howard, and obviously my brother and I, we're from the area. We were born in DC, and our mother went to Howard, so we're familiar. What's it like going to school there and being in the department? Because, you know, Life talked about learning all these different facets. And one thing I would say about Howard, there's a lot that you can learn from alumni or people in there, a lot of resources. What was it like for you, kind of, you know, jumpstarting your career?
Yeah. So for me going to Howard, it was an amazing blessing. And I always tell people the story how I almost didn't go to Howard. And it was, you know, I think it's a lot of things in life happen for a reason. And I was about to actually turn in an application to go to another school, like a full acceptance letter. And then I checked the mailbox, just like off a whim, Howard sent me a scholarship, and I was like, yo, I'm going to Howard. So when I got there, it was like I had that sense of like, oh, this is a blessing. So I took a full advantage of it, especially in terms of being in the film school. So knowing all these greats that went out of Howard, like Bradford Young, Ernest Dickerson, all these great, especially DPs that came out of Howard. Holly Garima is a professor there. So really like understanding that going in is knowing that I can't go out here and slack, or if I want to be a filmmaker and a Howard University filmmaker, I have to really go for it because of, you know, this is a tremendous thing that God gifted me. Being in the university, it was always like, for me, I'm a hustler, you know what I'm saying? So for me, it's like, what can I do outside of the classroom, outside of the work that I'm giving, that that can propel my career forward. So even if it's like, I used to bother Halle Grima all the time, go to his office, just like, hey, look at this little thing me and my friends did on the weekend. Anytime like, Ernest or Bradford came to the school, I'd be like, yo, look at my work. I was that pest young filmmaker, but it really taught me, one, just like the hustle and like continue to hustle. But then two, to have that background of Black creativity and be surrounded around a lot of Black creativity, whether it be, in the film school, in the fine arts department, no matter where you look, it's all like, Black excellence, but definitely like Black creativity is on the ultimate high. So for me, Brian and Howard's not one to be, one of those Black excellent, creative people. Like we have a slew of alumni. So for me, it's like I said, the hustle came out when I was like, all right, what can I do, in class to really push the envelope on like creativity and filmmaking. But then also, what can I do out of class to also bring back to my professors to be like, hey, this is what I'm doing outside of your classroom. How can you help me become a better filmmaker in this world? So I was like, obsessed with being a filmmaker, and I still am, but definitely early on, it was like, you learn all this stuff for the first time. It's like, oh, dang, like I'm learning shot composition. I'm learning like pacing, and I'm 17, 18 years old, taking in this whole world and like giving, some of the best mentors and professional opinions from Howard University professors and alumni. So like I said, it was just an amazing opportunity. Definitely blessed to be at the school. And I carry that on with me to my life after school too. It's like making sure I work on projects that reflect people that look like me and the Black community, Black diaspora, in a very positive light, which I kind of found my purpose at Howard, just to combat all the negative images and stereotypes of the Black community through my image, which is where What Say What kind of came in, where we wanted to make something really fun, cool, but like very much so us, and I think that all came from my education at Howard.
Man, you both of you shed so much light, but I mean, what you just said was powerful. You talked about all the reasons, for going to a HBCU, period. You know what I mean? Growing up around Howard, seeing it like in high school and stuff. Obviously, I didn't want to go because it was home, like close to home, but getting that HBCU experience, seeing Black excellence. And then you talked about your I guess, determination, your relentlessness, thinking outside the box. And when other people may have been focused on this, you were like, well, how can I, stay in people's ear? And you just never know. It's about relationships. And that's, we're going to talk about the relationship between you and life here. But What Say What? And you spark, and I'm just going to jump to it because you brought it up now. How did that come about? And then I'll talk into the aspect of picking somebody to work on the show, because it's such a unique show. And, it's not just a regular talk show. It's not just about music. It's so much there. How did that come about? And then talk about the relationship. How about how you want to go and reach out to life?
Yeah, for sure. So What Say What came to me about, I think it was like a year ago, about like January 2021. And it came from the Hoorae side, Rich Stevenson, Tiana Harris, and then our director, Jabriel Henning. Rayford is, they came to me like, hey, we got this idea we want to develop, because Smino, our guest on the show, had this original idea. He was like, all right, I have this idea. I want to do a very Black show that's, part Rhapsody of the Basement, part like artists expressing themselves unabashed from like any other like opinions. And definitely like, what Smino always talks about is that, you get opportunities in like the Jimmy Fallon show and like all these other like great, amazing platforms, but they're not really us, So he wanted to make a show that was like us. So Smino went to Hoorae, Tiana and Rich, who are the EPs over at Hoorae. And I've been working with Hoorae for about 3 or 4 years now. And Hoorae came out to me and was like, hey, we got this show. You're a great, creative producer. Can you help us develop it? So we went into development for about 3 or 4 months, 5 months, before we even started production. And then once we started production, it was like full steam ahead, like making the best, Blackest, dopest show we could. And then Zero Fatigue, Smino's camp, was a big part of it too, So they creative produced it along with Hoorae, and then who brought me on. So that's how I originally got on. And then how life came around is that after production, one of the biggest things in the production, we wanted to find like all Black people, like department heads. So like I say, our director, Jabriel Henning Rayford, is a Black woman. Our DP, Sam Hicks, is a Black man. So we had all these like department heads who were Black, and it was really important to me to find a Black editor. I was like, all right, we got to find a Black editor. We can't just stop at post-production, because post is where the story comes together. All our work for months and almost a year kind of came to this, culminating to this point. So we partnered with YouTube and Fly on the Wall for this project. So I had Fly on the Wall like send me editors, and they were like, all right, we can't, everybody's booked, we can't really find an editor, but we got this guy who's in Australia. Are you down to like, just look at his work? And I was like, dang, Australia? Like, all right, the only black person you find is in Australia.
I was gonna ask you, were you like, Australia, is he black? You know what I mean? Did you say that? Or
well, what was a big conversation too? Because it was like, because we had this conversation with like YouTube and Fly on the Wall, other production partners. Like, all right, we have to find a black person, and they were sending me people who weren't black, and I was like, all right, their work is dope, but like they're not black. So unfortunately, we can't go with them because we need somebody who really understands the material. One in a musicality tip, and then another on like what we're talking about and what we want to create as far as like just like say black acorns, black creativity. So when he first sent me to him, I was like, all right, he's in Australia. You can't find no black people in LA, I guess. But then I looked at his work, and his work that I was already familiar with. I just didn't know the face who made the work. Right. So I was like, yo, this is crazy. Like, yeah, let's definitely get Life on. And they're like, all right, but you got to like, he's in Australia, so it's a time difference. And I was like, it's whatever. So Jai and I actually changed our sleep schedule. We like forced our sleep schedule to change so we can be on Life's sleep schedule. So we end up like editing on his, our 1 a.m. It's his 8 a.m. And we were like, waking up at 12. And we're like, all right, time to go wake up like Life, edit and everything. We'll stay up until like, 12 o'clock, 1 in the morning. And then we'll repeat. So that was super dope. So that's how Life came on. And like I said, back to the Howard stories, everything's a blessing. I think it happens for a reason. And then definitely like finding Life and, finding a friend. And I would say like a mentor, Life, I'd call you that.
Right.
It was a blessing in disguise on this project. Had we had settled, I never would have met this amazing person right here. So.
Right. Life. What was it like getting the call for this project when you hear it? Because obviously you worked on so many things, so you have the option to say yes or no. What was it about this project in particular that made you say, yeah, that this is dope, I want to be a part of it?
Well, I have a hard time turning anything musically down. Like it's just, it doesn't matter if I'm doing a feature, if I'm doing whatever I'm doing, I just have music in me. And if I like the artist, I'm going to definitely be drawn into it. But I didn't even know who it was. What really attracted me initially was Hoorae. And then when I saw 2 young black creatives, I was like, what? Oh yeah. I want to be a part of it. Like regardless,
Right.
It was just a very positive atmosphere, and at this stage in my life, it's like, that's all I want, it's positive atmosphere,
People talk about that a lot in the industry. And, growing up outside of the industry, I was watching, I was like, man, it seems like they work together a lot, or they do this. And you don't understand until you really, really get into it about how much time you're spending together on set, on a production for months at a time, sometimes even, over a year, depending on the project. And if you're working with somebody for that amount of time and you don't have a relationship or can't work well with them, it's going to be the opposite of heaven. You know what I'm saying? It is going to be terrible in there. And I think what you said about wanting to pick somebody who is black, because obviously we're not posting color, we're posting black. We talk about hiring black people for a reason. As a producer, can you speak a little bit more to that? And then Life too, about why it's important sometimes to have, not sometimes, but a lot of times to have a black editor or somebody black in post working on black content when, that maybe people who aren't black don't understand that.
Yeah, for sure. So it was important to me, let's say, because of the project being all top to bottom, like black creative, from Hoorae coming on to Smino. Smino's a black artist, having Teddy Ray as our host. I just didn't want to, like I said, stop at the post-production part, because I know how important it is being a post-producer and editor myself, knowing like, all right, we got to finish this thing with someone who understands all the work we put in the beginning, So even like the little subtleties where, we would, Life and Jabriel and I would love some parts of the jokes. We get notes like, oh, like, I don't really understand this. And we're like, but we understand it. So it's hilarious, so it works. So I think that right there is like what's most important for having a black editor, especially because they just understand the totality of the story, what we're trying to do as far as from a black creative perspective. And then again, Life is so great because he is a director himself and he does so much, he's a multi-hyphenate filmmaker himself. So he can bring a lot more to the table as far as like his black creativity and what he has done in his life, so that's what I would say. And then I think more Black, you know, we don't see a lot of ourselves, like was saying, like in the post houses. I know when I go to a lot of post houses, especially in LA, I'm the only one. And I'm like, I'm not the only Black editor I know, but I'm the only Black editor that's in this, you know, 50 to 100 person edit post house. So it's really important to me to kind of like, especially if I had the hiring power to change, or you know, the vehicle to change, especially on this project. I wanted to make sure that I hired people that was more reflective of what I didn't see, what I want to see in the future. So.
No, I love that. And that, just to jump in, that's mainly why my brother started Posting Black when he was working in post houses back in 2009. He was like going in there. He's like, man, I'm 21 and I'm the only one in here. He said, what is going on? So he just started like cold emailing people, cold calling people. And that's how it changes. I also want to ask you real quick before I go to life, was one of the jokes they didn't understand when Smino said something about Teddy Ray's grandfather being painted like barbecue? Was one of those, was that one of the jokes?
I can't remember what joke it was. That was hilarious though. That we really emphasized that one too. We spent a good amount of time making sure that timing and that everything hit right. As far as like punching into that frame, that I forgot the name of the artist, but it was a Black artist who made that Victorian photo of Teddy. So we spent a lot of time on that. But I can't remember exactly. Like I don't know if you remember the joke that it was like, I don't know, something super subtle. I can't remember right now, but
Teddy's just so funny to me in general. So I mean, he's a nut. So
there was things like that though, for sure. There was like, you know, it was these subtleties that you may not understand, you may not get, or may go over some people's heads, but we're making this for a very specific niche audience. So as long as we satisfy our niche, then we're good. So
Life, coming back to you again, I guess in a similar way that I was asking Jeredon about being an editor and the content that you worked on over the years. Obviously, you say you can't turn down music, but have you noticed a difference in some of the projects that you're asked to work on versus some of the other, you know, because of maybe being Black? It's like you have a lot of credits, all of this work, or is it still up in the air sometimes depending on who's asking?
For me, it's not so much that, but I'm still extremely aware of what I don't see, like Jeredon said. And I don't see enough Black people in post. I don't see enough Black people on set. I mean, I don't. It's just kind of like, where are we? I'm like, am I the only one that got the bug? Like, you know, this? So whenever someone, you know, Black reaches out to me, I'm just excited off the top, you know? And then everything else takes off from there. But you know, just to piggyback off of what Jeredon was saying was, you know, it was very important to have, you know, a Black staff, simply because culture, like it doesn't matter who you are. If you're Black, there's things that you understand without saying anything, right? So, you know, even something as simple as this, I'll tell you something, right? I was talking to Jabriel about the what do you call it? Like the breakdown, the what am I trying to say? The script, right? And and the first thing I noticed was, you know, whoever did it kept putting NIGER, right? In the thing, and I was just like, I was so confused. I'm like, that person can't be Black. Like, and I'm like, that's just wild, really? And so, you know, we had a chuckle about it, but it's just little things like that. I mean, that's like so obvious and simple, but it's other nuances, right? That, you know, being Black, you don't have to explain. You just know.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, what was the script supervisor Joe Rogan? You know what I mean?
And it was actually the transcriptions for the lyrics. We had to get the lyrics, and it was the transcriptions for a lot of the lyrics. Which is funny because it is another one of the, like, I guess it's a systemic problem in music and film and entertainment in general. Where Smino even told me, like, a lot of times they'll translate my lyrics incorrectly just because I'm using like some slang, or I might like say an A but they say ER, and that goes up way up to like all the streaming services. Just because there's not anybody there, or like anybody who makes that software who again looks like us. So I think it's like I said, it's really important from top to bottom, even after post, you know, that people look like us, so we can make sure that what we're doing is accurate, you know.
No, so accurate, so accurate. One thing I'll ask, you know, because we're not going to keep you guys all day, but I have two more questions for you real quick. I want to ask you, Life, what was obviously you've edited so many things, but specifically for this show, what was a memorable cut? Like, and maybe there's something in everything that you edit and cut that you remember. You're like, oh man, I remember that part. I really like that. I hope that stays in. Was there something in this particular show that you know, you're like, oh, I like the way that turned out and the way that came together?
I really liked the fact that they liked the emphasis that I put on some words or some bump, like, you know, some musicality type of techniques that I use. There wasn't many changes, right?
Okay.
You know, in that aspect. And I really was like, you know, I'm always kind of nervous no matter how long you do it. You're always nervous. It doesn't matter who's critiquing or whatever. Right. You're always going, gosh, I really hope they feel me, right? Because the thing is that when I'm in it, I'm not like, I'm like feeling the music and really translating kind of how I feel through my edits, you know? And I always find that it, you know, doesn't matter if it was when I first started or now, I just stay true to my gut, you know, and how I enjoy seeing things play out, you know? And I just love music so much that, man, you can see I'm dancing when I'm editing. You know what I'm saying? I'm just excited that they you know, kind of felt that and kept those particular edits in, you know?
And to follow what Life was saying, I know exactly what you're talking about, Life. It's in the music performance segment. It's like, this is the music, you know, this is the footage, and it's like, have fun with it. And I honestly didn't expect it to be so amazing when I was like, all right, we're gonna get like a first pass. It's cool. We're gonna have like notes like you traditionally would in a edit session. We got it, and you like said, it seems like he was dancing, like he had fun with the edit from the jump. And I was like, John and I looked at it together, and we were like, had to pause it after that first do, can't touch it, and we were like, yo, hands up. Let me call him right now just to thank him. And then we just, you know, really kept the integrity of most of his first cut, and maybe like swap some shots out. But like I said, you can really tell he was having fun with it, and we were too, you know. And that's what we wanted to do across the board. Just have fun with this project. It was a very like lighthearted, fun, energetic project that's putting on, you know. Hopefully, you know, Smino fans love it, and they're, you know, happy with what we made. And then people who don't know Smino became fans of his. So that was our overall goal. And it just seemed like from that music segment, I always look at the YouTube comments, and they're like blown away from this music segment. Their life just like nailed in its first go around.
No, man, it was so enjoyable. You know, when I first saw it in my email box, I said, man, what is this? Because I love music, and I play multiple instruments, and I'm in it all the time, and I'm just like, wait, I haven't seen this. And, I listen to everything, so I'm listening to Smino. I'm like, wait, this is new music. So it really touched on something. I think you guys have something really nice here. Not to keep you, but to close out almost. Has there been a piece of advice that has stuck with you, from Howard up to now in your professional life that you feel like you would give to others, for yourself, Jeredon, and then even for you, Life, obviously working in post and in your career in the industry as a whole. So I'll start with you, Life, and just go to Jeredon and close out.
For me, I would say the biggest piece of advice is focus on the information, not the destination. Right? And what I mean by that is there really is no destination, right? The information it stays with you forever. Focus on figuring out what you don't know and just keep adding to that. It's a tool. It just, just keep, putting those tools in that tool belt, because at some point you're going to need them. I mean, I find that even now I still need things that I did 15 years ago, 20 years ago. I'm like, and so, just focus on knowledge and figuring things out and like really knowing your craft is what I would say, and stop thinking about the money and, all the fancy stuff you're going to get, it's like, that's like material shit, stuff.
Yeah.
Land.
No, you good. Yeah. Yeah.
So. Yep.
That's great advice. Jeredon.
Yeah, I 100% agree with what Life just said. And I would add a couple things to that. What Life was just talking about as far as like just doing it and going, it's about the work and about the information. I'll also add just experiment, try new things, especially younger filmmakers who don't have much to lose. You're not gambling with like a company's reputation or money. You're just like creating stuff for pure joy. Like keep that joy and then just have fun with it and experiment and try new things. I used to call all my films experiments because every film I try to do something a little different. Whether it's like adding the dolly, or maybe I'm like doing split screen, or doing some, I'm doing something that kind of takes me to the next level, or like try new things. And like I said, and those things add to your toolbox. So even if it works, then it's like, all right, I'm keeping this in my toolbox. If it doesn't, it's like, all right, let's try it again and see if I can make it work even better, or I can keep it out of my toolbox. So the more you know and the more information like that you have, and the skill set wise, as far as like literally editing, the better you will be. And especially for me, being a creative producer, having that background, Life and I talked in editing jargon all the time, but I know a lot of producers can't really like get into that brain because they're not in the craft like a skilled trainer would be. So to the producer, I would say, especially creative producers, like study the craft of what you're making. If you're a creative producer and you're gonna do a lot of post projects, then edit some projects, think like an editor, direct some projects, think like a director. But then overall, my biggest advice will be enjoy it. Like no matter what, like have fun with it and find people that you enjoy it with. So like definitely Life and I will connect on a lot of other projects. We just really have fun. It didn't feel like work at all. We would wake up, and we're just like, all right, let's create today. This is fun. Like it's whatever. And then same for Jabriel and I went to Howard together. So we've had over like 10-year friendship. Which is, culminated in us creating projects together. And if we do all this because we enjoy it and we have fun with each other making projects. So that's my biggest advice. It's like, it's as cliche as it is. Like if it doesn't feel like work, then, that's your career and that's what you want. You need to do for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
But,
Man, I don't know if people that are listening can't see, but this is a mic and I would drop it. It costs some money. So that's what both of you just did, a mic drop there. Fellas, Life, Jeredon, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being here today. We truly appreciate you just shedding so much light. And What Say What is a hit, and we hope people continue to go out and watch it and support and subscribe, comment, do all of that on the Hoorae channel. And for those of you tuning in this episode, thank you so much. Please be sure to follow us on Post in Black at Post in Black on all of our social media channels, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Made for More Entertainment. Until next time, we'll see you. Stay black.